All right, welcome into the Knoll Road. We have all your Week 2 Steelers-Seahawks storylines, including insider report this morning on your Steelers. Diana Rossini says some people in the Steelers organization were having an I told you so moment as they watched Justin Fields run all over the Steelers in Week 1. It is Week 2, and we have all the key matchups and things to look for. Steelers are a 3.5-point favorite. How you feeling about that one? I'll tell you why laying that much terrifies me, even though I am confident in a Pittsburgh win this weekend. Here we go.
Van to the corner of the end zone. Oh, for a touchdown!
Yes, sir. Happy Week 2. I'm Gavin Dawson along with New Bear Lesniewski. How the heck you doing, buddy?
You know, I took a pretty bad fall this morning post-workout, like an embarrassing fall. Like I broke some things in my own house, and then my kids embarrassed me in public further, doing what kids do in public. So I am probably more ready to talk ball than I've been in a long time.
Okay, before we look forward, let's just look a little bit backwards, as we say here in Texas, to about Week 7 of last year. I guess that would be the subject. Diana Rossini saying last year when the Steelers had both Wilson and Fields, Coach Tomlin made the switch from Fields to Wilson 6 games in. Despite some internal pushback, the Steelers at 4-2, Fields had plenty of supporters in the locker room and even on the staff. So I guess the thought would be that Fields was so awesome against the Steelers in Week 1 that people feel like, man, we would have been a lot better if he would have been our guy for all 17 last year. What do you think about that idea, New Bear?
Yeah, but I mean, the caveat is that they didn't let either guy run the whole offense, use the whole field, do the whole damn thing. The problem is, Justin Fields was in a box. Russ got let out of the box. Russ went too far out of the box. They stopped letting Russ do anything but play in the box. It was like watching Seven on repeat, and instead of Brad Pitt, it was Dangerous trying to get on a step stool and look over his lineman and going, "What's in the box?" Like, it was terrifying to watch how last season ended, and I hated every second of it because I agreed with the switch in as much as I was in the building the night that they made it, and you saw Russ throwing moonballs, and you saw George Pickens doing George Pickens shit. He entered the Matrix on one that didn't even count in the box score. He was so close. It would have been the catch of the year. And then it just devolved from there, is how I'm going to say it. So what you're saying, if you are an anonymous assistant coach on the Pittsburgh Steelers talking to Diana Rossini, what you are saying is Justin Fields, footloose and fancy free. More importantly, more than anything, do you know what Aaron Glenn is giving these guys? You know what Aaron Glenn is giving Justin Fields? He's given him something he's never had. He didn't have it in Chicago. He probably really didn't even have it at Ohio State, as tight-assed as that ship is run. But he for damn sure didn't have it in Pittsburgh. Is that it's okay if you make a mistake. Throw the ball in the middle of the field. In fact, I wonder if some of the stuff that was coached into him, the Pittsburgh PTSD, is what kept Fields from flipping the ball to Mason Taylor and beating them.
Okay, let me jump in there on that note, New Bear, because to me, what he had last Sunday and he also had in college was a great offensive line and a great running game. All right, up next here on the Knoll Road, let's talk specifically about Week 2, Steelers and Seahawks at 1 o'clock at Acrisure. What is your prediction? Leave a comment down below as we get to game time. Maybe we can even talk about it during the game. It is Steelers 3.5, although I think if we come over here to our friends at Bet Online, it's actually moved down to 3. I wonder... let me punch you in there. I wonder how many people are betting Seattle on this and thinking like I am. Now, I'm confident the Steelers are going to get a win, but the Seahawks defense has been getting steadily better. First year last year for Coach Mike McDonald from Baltimore, and it struggled. Then they got to the bye. Since the bye, they have been playing as a top 10 EPA per play defense in the entire NFL. Of course, Reek Woolen at one corner. They got a young guy who was undrafted a couple of years back at the other corner. I forget his name right now, but he just had a huge week against Jawan Jennings.
You're talking about Josh Jobe.
Yeah, Josh Jobe from Bama, right? Undrafted, and he got in the starting lineup last year, and he just had an amazing game in week 1. So then you go to the defensive line, and, Leonard Williams is still one of the better defensive tackles. They add Dexter Lawrence to go with Boye Mafe, who is one of the top pressure guys in the entire NFL in week 1, and they switch those guys back and forth. So I think Broderick Jones and Fatani were absolutely going to have their hands full with this defense, and the inside's not going to have any picnic either, dealing with the big man. So, and then you got Jaron Reed as well. So I believe Seattle is on their way with Mike McDonald to establishing themselves as a very physical defense and a top 10 defense in this league for years to come. And I just don't think Pittsburgh is ready to consistently run the ball on anybody or protect Aaron Rodgers enough to be confident they'll score more than 20. So laying 3, we're getting close. Can we get down to 2.5 and I'll bang it? How about that?
You think it's another Boswell at the buzzer?
Yes.
Look, I was going to start off by saying that for me, this comes down to the 2 run games. And what I mean by that is Seattle didn't look very good doing what they do. And Kenneth Walker is a really good back, and Charbonnet might be the best backup in the whole league. Charbonnet would start for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
And Walker just can't stay healthy, and that's why you're not hearing his name enough, because his EPA type stuff and he catches the ball and is doing the types of things that you saw from Christian McCaffrey last week. And Christian McCaffrey didn't run the ball very well, but he still did Christian McCaffrey things. He killed him in the passing game. Kittle got him. Juszczyk got him. Ricky Pearsall did some business, did some work. And then you look across the field and you go, man, this whole offense, like Cooper Kupp might not have that much left in the tank. You respect the name. I think we're putting him on the thumbnail as much out of that because we might not get another chance to do it. And also because of the Jake Paul memes, that you just want to make sure that you know that this is actually Cooper Kupp, and he was a Triple Crown winner and a Super Bowl MVP and a bad man from Eastern Washington. But, all kidding and all digression aside, this whole thing runs through JSN. And if JPJ isn't there to either get real handsy and let the refs call it or not,
or healthy,
you're talking about, or healthy, then you're talking about Darius Slay, or you're talking about Ramsey, because you might have to say it's important enough this week in this week-to-week amorphous blob. I always think about the Jerry Tarkanian amoeba defense, right? That amorphous blob that they played where they had so many interchangeable parts, where you could take this small forward or this point guard or this shooting guard or whatever, where whoever the other guy's best team is, we're just going to take them out. This might be one of those weeks where Ramsey has to travel. And then you go, they line JSN up all over the place. So how does that dictate? Also, he's a smaller guy, right? That, Ramsey, still has all of the traits and all of the, for the most part, like, he's not going to find himself in trouble. But if you are going to, this is one of those dudes with the route running precision, especially if they put him in the slot and give him a two-way go, then what do you do with the rest of it? Because there isn't a whole lot of the rest of it, right? Everything you said about the defense for Seattle, it's the opposite for their offense.
Yeah, he went off and they had 13 points. And
I think 9 for 124.
It's not only a lack of weapons that they're giving Sam Darnold, but it's a massive line of bad line. They drafted Gray Zabel to play center. He wasn't up to that, so they moved him to guard. It's just an absolute bleep show right up there with the
Kendrick Green. Line. I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers know something about that.
Yeah. So, I think it's important also, how are they going to handle DK Metcalf? I think that's obviously a huge key to this game. And I think we learned something about his yak ability in week 1 that's exciting with Aaron Rodgers throwing it so short. Maybe it's going to be less DK Metcalf downfield and more get DK the ball and watch him run through and around people.
I will tell you, the more you start unpacking it, you go position by position, there is something that gives you pause. There is something that goes, so what's the first way to give a bad line an opportunity to at least be average enough week to week? Well, your linebackers are sticky, and that ain't plaster DBs coverage covering dudes up. I'm talking about sticking to blocks like Peyton Wilson and Patrick Queen did last week. Like, all of a sudden, if you just get a hat on a hat and you give Walker and Charbonnet a crease, and it's not 2nd and 9, It's not 3rd and 7 every time. Like, that's where you can get creative with JSN. That's where you can get creative. That's where you can find out if Cooper Kupp has anything left. And oh, by the way, let's not forget that both Charbonnet and Walker can go run the rail. They can go do some things down the field. It's not just check downs and quick little turnaround stuff and slip screens. Like, they can be weapons. You can weaponize the aggressiveness of this defense, which looks like for the first time in years, Blitzburg is back. So if now Tomlin feels like he has to overcompensate for how bad Queen and Wilson were last week, and he's worried about them getting stuck on blocks, and he wants to kind of dictate tempo, and that's the message he's been sending all week. Well, now all of a sudden you get Charbonnet on a little Texas route. Let's have fun catching him from behind.
All right, next topic here on our Knoll Road Sunday show. Thanks for riding with us. Please hit that like button if you're still riding with us, and maybe consider the subscribe. But how about I ask you who Sam Darnold is at this point? 3rd team, what is it, 5th or 6th year? Is he like the next Baker Mayfield reclamation, where it's like, hold on, this guy's back in the top 10 after maybe looking a little busty?
So everything that happened for Sam Darnold last year, you were just so happy for. You were just so – you forget, like, he was so young coming out. He was a guy who probably should have stayed in college for another year. But it's just like the one-and-done John Calipari, basketball guys. When your stock is as high as it's ever going to be, the only thing you can do is hurt yourself by coming back, right? Like, he had to go, and then he got picked where he picked by the franchise that picked him. And then he said on TV, I'm seeing ghosts. And for a long time, it was a meme, it was a joke, and he kind of got lost in the shuffle. And then all of a sudden, the reclamation project, you talk about Baker Mayfield in Tampa, dude, Sam Darnold was better than that last year in Minnesota. Point blank. Sam Darnold was on another level. Sam Darnold was getting MVP votes. The Minnesota Vikings were Super Bowl favorites. And then he started seeing ghosts again. I mean, there's dudes, Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, running wide open, and he's not pulling the trigger. He's the reason they lost. Sam Darnold kept them from achieving the goals that they had last year as a team. There is something that is broken in that young man. And going to Seattle and having – think about that, dude. They went 14-3, and they let their quarterback walk. Like, just I mean – so –
and he had amazing stats. It wasn't just that he had 35 touchdowns and 4,300 yards. Like, everything was saying this guy is entering top 10 territory. I think, and it was with a below average offensive line, or maybe average offensive line. I think you just, what you mentioned there a few minutes back is, what are ways to help your quarterback or help your offense or help a diminished offensive line look good and be on time. And it's the genius of Kevin O'Connell.
Kevin O'Connell is probably better than Shanahan right now. I mean, look what he just did with J.J. McCarthy. Kevin O'Connell's the best play caller in the NFL. And then you watch his post-game breakdowns and the way he hands out game balls, the way it's almost like cult level stuff. That's how empowered, how empowering, how powerful that dude is. And I hate Minnesota, dude. I got cousins growing up in Chicagoland. John Randall, Chris Carter, Randy. I respect them. The jerseys are awesome. The stadium is unbelievable.
So you're not buying Darnold?
No, my problem with him is that, like, Baker Mayfield was never broken. Baker Mayfield had a moment where he had to play scout team defensive end and he doubted himself. But Baker Mayfield's the greatest walk-on of all time. You don't go from walk-on to Heisman. You don't go to Oklahoma without calling the coach when their quarterback is coming off a Player of the Year honors and you're the same year, and just show up and say, I'm good, I'm going to beat this dude out. Baker Mayfield is one of those dudes. And he might have doubted himself for a minute, but then, I mean, dude, you don't get on a plane. What do you got? He got on a plane on Tuesday night. Red Eye shows up Wednesday in L.A., learns the playbook in less than 24 hours and leads a 98-yard game-winning drive, saves his life. Like, Baker Mayfield's one of those dudes. He played hurt, multiple throwing shoulder, knee. He shouldn't even have been out there. And then Cleveland did him dirtier than anything you could possibly imagine with the Deshaun Watson nonsense. And I hate Cleveland too. So, like, for me to talk nice about all this stuff is not an easy thing to do, but it is easy to say that you were rooting for Sam Darnold, and unfortunately, there is something about that man that he just will never get back.
Yeah, you make some good points. They're up next here on the Knoll Road. What's the real Jabril Peppers factor here? We had Tim Benz on the show yesterday. He wasn't sure dude's going to be better than Chuck Clark, which was a bit of a surprise to me when Ben said it. He was on fire, though. Appreciate him jumping in with us. But I asked my man Brian Broaddus about Peppers, former NFL scout. He turned his nose up before I could even get the purrs out par. I just said Jabril Pet, and he was like, oh, geez. And I was like, man, where is this Jabril Peppers doubt coming from two of my most favorite sources in football? And, I think it's he didn't hit his college potential, because everywhere I look, I see tape of the guy making plays, and all the nerds, they support the idea. So what do you think? Were we too bullish on Jabril Peppers?
Well, first and foremost, he's not going to be asked to do the things Deshaun Elliott, Chuck Clark, any of them. Juan Thornhill, he's a different dude. He's going to be moving around. He's going to be asked to do very specific things unless literally everyone else gets hurt. You're going to be able to say, oh, okay, Ramsey's going to play in center field, then Peppers is coming off the edge. Like, you're going to be able to chess piece this thing when everyone's healthy, and he becomes... It's the Denzel line from Training Day, right? I mean, this shit it's ain't checkers, it's chess, right? I mean, he's one of those Swiss Army knife dudes that allows you to go big nickel and have that be meaningful. Like, a lot of teams just say that, oh yeah, okay, this guy's a safety and we're playing him at linebacker. Jabril Peppers can do that. I mean, there's a whole bunch of virality to all the reps of him. I mean, shit, he's even wearing a fullback number. And there's a whole bunch of reps of him where people are talking about how he looks like a linebacker playing safety or a safety playing linebacker. And it's one of those things where the interchangeability of his skill set, they're not going to ask him to run with wide receivers. They're not going to ask him to do things that Jalen Ramsey does, but they're also going to be able to ask him to do things that the others can't do and won't do willingly and won't do as good as him. If he's healthy, and they're all healthy, there is a world that you live in where you're playing 4-2-5 and 3-3-5, and you're doing all kinds of dime star special stuff. And they better get Nick Saban on line one. And I don't say that as a joke. I say that as a guy who lived in the Saturday and Sunday worlds where you look at, like, what did you do with young Minka? But then what would you do with him if he was actually able to play like a linebacker? Where you're taking guys with skill sets that you can screw in, not just for the sake of the numbers, but because they have not just an ability, but a willingness to get whatever job you ask them done. The thing that's going to endear Jabril Peppers to Steelers Nation is he is literally going to put his body at risk.
Yeah, and I think at least for the immediate future, it's a big help with Deshaun Elliott's injury. But I would just say that you struggled to really stop the run in week one. Sometimes, unfortunately, safeties can be a team's leading tackler, and it's not always the best sign for how your front and how your linebackers are doing. But I think the responsible thing to do as a team, as a front office, is just not to assume that your guys are going to play any better. You're going to take the warning signs of humble pie and say, if there's any way we can improve this, major shortcoming that we've exhibited on tape so far, and it's cheap, we got to take it. So, but I think Jabril Peppers is going to be fun. He's going to bring more attitude, and he's going to bring some devastating plays. I mean, the guy's he's a ball guy too. He'll make some turnovers for you.
Let's also not forget that, this isn't like a Miles Sanders in Dallas at, $1.3 million, where he's probably washed, so he's willing to take that deal, right? He's not cheap because his career might be over and he just spent 2 years not doing anything. The only reason he wasn't on the field last year is he had an off-field thing that was cleared up for what it is. And when he was on the field, he was the third or fourth best, depending on what metrics you go by, safety in all of football. So, like, if you're turning your nose up because you don't love the kid because he didn't become Charles Woodson, he never was Charles Woodson. Jabril Peppers, 5'11", 213. Jabril Peppers is a different dude than Charles Woodson, than Rod Woodson, than Jalen Ramsey.
All right, next topic here on the Knoll Road. Aaron Rodgers, 2 touchdown passes away from passing his former teammate Brett Favre for 4th all time on the list. Would you rather have Raj or Favre as just a player? Let's take the other stuff out of it, because I don't think anybody would pick putting Brett Favre on there.
Like as a human being, Jesus.
Sorry, but not sorry. I mean, so yeah, I think that's the first one. I mean, I guess you already said it earlier today. Rodgers is your second best quarterback.
Can I just give you one thing real quick? Same amount of touchdown passes, bro. Brett Favre threw 336 picks. Aaron Rodgers threw 100. He's thrown 220. He's thrown other quarterbacks and like great quarterbacks entire careers worth of interceptions more than Aaron Rodgers has thrown in his career. Like, I love Brett Favre. First jersey I ever had Favre, probably because I thought his name was spelled wrong like mine. Love Brett Favre. Love Brett Favre. There's no question here. Is there?
He threw all those picks because he was actually throwing it down the field, unlike Rodgers, who led the league in passes behind the line of scrimmage in week 1.
I mean, dude, that's more than Tom Brady. I thought it was. I just wanted to make sure. Like, you could take Aaron Rodgers' career, Tom Brady's career, put them together. Brett Favre threw more picks.
Do you think Rodgers will make it a 3rd game in a row with 4 touchdown passes?
Ooh, that's a great one. No, because I think Seattle's going to do some things. Okay. So,
now, Seattle is without their nickelback, Devin Witherspoon. I should have mentioned that earlier.
I think Seattle's going to do one of two things. They're going to put the pressure on. They're going to take some risks, and they're going to try to get up and down, or they're going to slow this thing down so much that it's like a painful watch because of all those things, because of their limitations and because of injuries. When I was talking earlier about their running game, I was sitting here saying to myself, like, is this not an opportunity to maybe figure out if you can get right and be stubborn for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Like, is this not an opportunity for Caleb Johnson to stop returning kicks and not get laid out? Like, the dude, I rewound the one because I wanted to make sure I wasn't speaking out of turn, but he was almost in concussion protocol on one of those. If he's really the future potential bell cow back, can we just stop the nonsense with him returning kicks? And
It's not looking good.
Can we throw him a bone and give him a few little runs? Like,
no, I think we should take the warning signs and maybe just take him off the field entirely. He's not ready.
Redshirt him.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think, next up in the Knoll Road, do you think Aaron Rodgers supercharges Calvin Austin's career? Sure,
1 year or two.
Looked like he liked him, didn't it?
1 year or two.
Well, just 1 year.
1 year.
I mean, the early returns are 70 yards. I mean, that was a top 5 game all time in Austin's career as far as targets. He was out there for almost every drop back that Rodgers had.
Yeah, and on a couple of those sacks and a couple of those pressures, Austin was open too. And if you're heated up and he's your new Randall Cobb and he's looking at you and he's going to go to you, then there's an opportunity. I mean, if you look back at that all 22, there's a 150-yard game in there for Calvin Austin without even blinking. So, yeah, I mean, if Calvin Austin was ever going to get supercharged, it was going to be right now with this guy, because everyone's basically saying Roman Wilson's season is not happening.
And Tim Benz told us the other night, Rodgers just loves taking 5s and trying to make them 8s. And once he has a guy and he trusts him, you can be Mr. Anonymous across the NFL and all of a sudden kind of be a household name because Rodgers just keeps throwing the damn ball to you.
Yeah.
And I think Roman Wilson's absence tells us a lot.
Let's not forget too, Calvin Austin, the only thing wrong with him is that he's small. The only thing wrong with him, and like you talk about Tim Benz talking about how he's never going to get those calls, right? Even if he's getting bear hugged, because he just looks like a dude who's getting beat because it's like your little brother. It's Webster out there to a certain degree. I mean, he's not what they list him at, right? And you go back through it and you go, man, 106. So we're talking about Deshaun Jackson level stuff, right? 5'8", 170. And he's listed at 5'9", 161. So if he's really like 5'8", 165, that's Deshaun Jackson. And like Deshaun Jackson, I mean, he's fast AF. I mean, he's 4.32. I mean, Deshaun Jackson was kind of in a class by himself. But I've been trying to find somebody that he could evolve into. And if you're talking about being the poor man's Deshaun Jackson and being a guy who's, 18, 19, 20 yards a catch, even if you're only catching 3, 4, 5 balls a week, go back to Alvin Harper with the dynastic Dallas Cowboys. Go back to Jonathan Taylor running opposite Jerry Rice. Like, go back in time. It is infrequent where you have a Chris Carter, Randy Moss thing where two guys are getting 80, 90, 100 catches, and one of them's a 10, 11, 12 guy, and one of them's an 18, 19-yard guy at volume. In this offense, with everything they're going to do with the tight ends, and hopefully, God, I hope Caleb Johnson isn't getting a redshirt year, but everything that they need out of wide receiver 2, Calvin Austin looks like he's going to give them. And it looks like Aaron Rodgers is determined, hell-bent, maybe even on helping him go nuclear.
Final topic here on the Knoll Road. Cam Heyward fined, I think about $8,000 for this hit. Did he get his money's worth?
Connor Heyward.
Yeah. Connor Heyward. Special team play.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about Cam and I missed something. Yeah.
That doesn't look like $8,000 of work to me, but the play was over. Kind of earholed him.
The sportsman-like conduct stuff is at such a pinnacle for them. They don't want anyone taunting, especially standing over guys. They don't want any of the gun celebrations. They want all that stuff out. And I mean, let's just be real, dude. There's going to be another lawsuit. There's going to be more guys over time who come back with the CTE stuff where even though they did what they did and they mitigated it, there's going to be more science. There's going to be more stuff. So the more proof points they have where they can say, hey, we have a strike zone on quarterbacks. And if you do this, it's not just a penalty in the game, but we're taking money out of guys' paychecks to try to, de-incentivize incentivize you not to do the thing, right? Reverse incentivize?
Disincentivize?
That's what I started with, and it just didn't feel right.
You're the master's degree guy.
Yeah. So when I get confused, it's probably not a word. But all kidding aside, the thing with this, I wonder, you talk about the echo of the whistle. And when you're watching something as a meme and man, that in slow-mo, like that looks bad. That was pass interference, or that was obviously a personal foul. That was exactly how they called it or completely against how they called it. What you have to be aware of is they do this at the beginning of every season. They do it in high school. They do it in college. They do it in the pros. And they say, hey, man, we're calling holding differently this year. And we're going to call it more in the last couple of years. What was it? The Chiefs tackles, right? And everyone cheating off the line. And remember the game where they threw like 5, 6, 7 flags in a row where otherwise you're an eligible receiver. This makes it an illegal formation. We are going to penalize you until you stop bleeping cheating. This is one of those things where they're going to chip away at it in a less public way. They're just going to take $8,000 from as many guys as they can.
This was actually 63-27. Salute to Nick Farabaugh there with the tweet, the appropriate number. Maybe it was 6,300 worth of work. I don't know. Leave a comment down below. Like the video if you're riding with us. Of course, the Knoll Road brought to you by Bet Online, up to $250 in free bets plus 100 free spins. A+ rating review, fastest payouts guaranteed. And again, right now we're sitting at 3. If this comes down to 2.5, I'm gonna hammer it. But they got all the odds, they got all the futures, the casino games, the poker games, the live racing, and all that. Okay, kickoff 1:00 on Sunday. Maybe we'll be on Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening talking about it, but no later than Monday night for sure with a recap on all of our takeaways. And for New Bear, I'm Dawson. We'll see you next time on the